In 1988, I took a seminar with Sensei Yuri Nakamura, and he taught 30 catch wrestling moves, and then he showed 12 leg locks. And I was like, holy crap, I know it's my new secret weapon. Shooto, the grappling, is throwing right into an immediate submission, which they call a quick kill, and there's no time lapse between the throw or the takedown to the submission. And then Hickson said it's not about 100 moves once, it's one move 100 times, because you become an expert. You could kill a whole room with one armbar. So I was going to go to Japan to fight. Rorion and I had talked about the UFC in his living room, and I said, well, what if the fighters are walking in and they're presented with their arms, and then the last thing you hear is that door going smack, and then the bolt going down. He goes, oh, interesting.
Welcome to the Ageless Warrior Lab. I'm BJJ Black Belt and Dirty Dozen member Dave Meyer, here to draw wisdom from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the martial arts and explore how it applies to success in business, relationships, your long-term health, and making the most out of your life. What you're about to hear is a discussion I had with Erik Paulson. Now, if you don't know who Erik Paulson is, and if you have any interest in MMA, and certainly in the development of MMA and the UFC, you definitely should know who Erik is. Erik is a person who was training full contact martial arts back long before there was a UFC. He came out to Los Angeles, and like many of the people I've spoken to on this podcast, was training with Dan Inosanto at the Inosanto Academy. He was learning French kickboxing, savate. He was learning Thai kickboxing. He was doing Western boxing. He was doing wrestling. He was doing Muay Thai. He was doing Kali, stick fighting, Eskrima, Arnes, all of these systems of weaponry. And he was one of the first students who heard about the Gracies in Los Angeles, started even before I did. And at some point he had a discussion with Rorion Gracie about what would become the UFC and what the octagon should be, what the cage should be. You'll hear his input in that. But he chose to go to Japan. And we heard that from Frank Shamrock as well, that even before the UFC here, there was mixed martial arts in Japan. And I should explain that. The UFC was astonishing and amazing. It was set up to pit someone from one style against someone from another style. And that's what Rorion Gracie wanted to do. He wanted to show off Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So you had stylists, a judo person and a jiu-jitsu person and a boxing person. And there were no rules. Technically, there was a little bit. You couldn't eye gouge, you couldn't bite, you couldn't fish hook, put your finger in someone's mouth and tear at their lips. But basically, you could elbow, you could headbutt, you could groin strike, you could kick on the ground, you could up kick, you could do anything. There were no weight classes. There was no time limit to the match. And whoever won would then advance to the next match in the same night and then to the next match in the same night. That is crazy. That was an amazing, unique thing that was happening. But what was already happening in Japan was what we would think of as a more integrated mixed martial arts. You had Pancrase, which was having large audiences and decent paydays, and that allowed open-handed striking and kicking and grappling and submissions on the ground. That's where Ken Shamrock came from, Pancrase, and came to the UFC. You had Shooto, which involved closed fist striking, I believe elbows, knees. You could go to the ground, you could do finishes. There was striking allowed on the ground at that time in Shooto. And there were weight classes and there were time limits there. It was more organized and it was more close to what we would think of as MMA today. And you should check out these late 1980s, early 1990s things going on in Japan, because there was a whole scene going on there, and that's where the money was, and that's where Erik chose to go. He could have fought in the first UFC, but that would have meant he would have been representing Shooto and would have been fighting Royce Gracie, his own coach. So he didn't want to do that. And he became the first American to win the Shooto World Light Heavyweight title in Japan. He was a trailblazer. The Japanese were not really looking to bring over Americans who could win, but they did want competition. He opened the door for Rigan Gracie to then go fight in Japan, where Rigan dominated. So we talk a lot about the early days and Erik's development, his thoughts on martial arts. He's an encyclopedia. He drops a lot of different names of techniques and describes different techniques, uses the Japanese terminology. We used to do that a lot in the day. I understand what he's talking about, but you may not. And that's okay. Just push through it. He was just so well connected with the people who were forming all of these different systems in Japan, and great martial arts people, a lot of whom I know as well. And the links are all in the show notes. He took a break from coaching, which he talks about, but is now coaching some fighters again, specifically the Ruotolo Brothers for their bid into MMA fighting, which is really interesting. So they couldn't have done better with a coach to help their MMA game. We also talked a bit about some health challenges he had and some kind of spiritual realizations. He's the founder of the Combat Submission Wrestling Association, CSW. Erik is just a very interesting person. So sit back and enjoy my conversation with my good friend, Professor, he is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Professor Erik Paulson. Erik, it is so great to get a chance to talk to you. Thanks for making the time, man.
I appreciate it. And also, it's nice to see you again, Master David.
Oh, are you referring to the coral belt thing?
You're a master. You're no longer professor, you're master.
You know what, Erik? There's so many people who have so much more knowledge than me, but I do have a few years in, and that's what the coral belt is. And thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's dedication. Look behind you. Look at all of the medals from all your competitions, all the years you put it on the line.
That is true. That's not even all of them we're referring to. If you're watching on YouTube video, you see those medals behind me, which are actually real. That's not a fake background.
Have you counted how many you have?
No, I have not, but there's a bunch. But you do a lot of these competitions. And in the first few years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I was doing it, back when you started around that time too, there were no competitions.
That's right.
Basically, those are almost every single one of those are from when I was a black belt, because there just weren't any other competitions before. But
isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. So I want to talk to you about, because you've got this unique view. You are, I mean, to say a pioneer, you were the first complete fighter I ever saw. You were the first person who absolutely had jiu-jitsu, absolutely had your wrestling chops, absolutely had punching and kicking at a time when people didn't even have the words for that. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about this. And I think especially for people coming up today who are interested to know who are the trailblazers, who made this sport that is now MMA, your name has got to be right up there. And so I'm really looking forward to introducing you to people who maybe haven't had a chance to see your stuff yet.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So tell me, Erik, how did you get into martial arts? What's your origin story, and what arts have you trained in that got you to where you are today?
So I was playing hockey, football, and baseball as a child. I was in 4th grade. I was in hockey season. We had to drive up to this place. It's like 3 hours or 4 hours up and 4 hours back. And I didn't get to play. And our team lost, and our coach said, "You guys suck. You guys are a bunch of losers." And then I said, "I didn't even get to play." And he goes, "It's because you're a loser." And I was like, well, screw that. If I didn't get to play, how am I a loser? Just because we're on a losing team, I didn't even get to try. So I came home and I told my parents, I said, "Hey, Mom, I don't think I want to do hockey anymore. It's just not productive. The coach is not nice." I was getting in fights. So I was going after the guy, not the puck, all the time. And I was in the penalty box all the time for fighting. A boxing match started and a hockey game broke out. And then I told my dad, and my dad was heartbroken because that's the number one sport in Minnesota in the winter is watching football on TV and playing hockey. So my mom said, "Well, what else would you like to do?" I go, "I don't know what else is there to do." And she brought me by my elementary school in 4th grade, and there was a traditional judo teacher teaching judo. And she said, "Would you like to do this?" I go, "I have no idea." So I took my first class, and he goes, "I need an uke." And I go, "Me?" And he goes, "I want to teach you guys. The first thing is learning how to break fall."
Let me just say for our listeners that uke means the guy who is going to show the techniques needs another body to demonstrate on. That's the uke.
So he threw me, and I didn't know how to break fall, and I hit the ground flat, and he knocked the wind out of me. And man, that's when I realized that I was a slapstick comic, because I made the entire class laugh and clap. And then I go, "Throw me again." He threw me again, and then knocked the air out of me again. And he thought it was funny, so he started using me regularly. And for some reason, I really took to it. And we had a competition where we had to grapple against each other. 2 years in a row, I won the competition with the class, and I really loved it. So I found a judo teacher that was close, and I was training with him. And the guy was really good at throwing, but they weren't so strong on the ground. They're good at pinning, but they weren't really good at movement, transitioning, or submissions. And I stayed with that from like 70, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. And then I got in a street fight. I tried to do a drop seoi nage on a guy on ice. and he grabbed my hair and just ripped me backwards and then just started punching my face. And so I'm like, oh, I'm back to hockey again. So then I grabbed him and then I was punching him. It was like that Dom Fry fight. We were punching each other in the face. He's pulling my hair. I'm pulling his hair. Do you give? No, I don't give. He goes, do you give? No. And I go, all right, we both let go on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, let go. And I go, rematch. And this kid was a bully at the bus stop. So I was like, man, I got to learn how to strike because I didn't know how to strike, right? So I tried judo on the ice, wrong context anyways, slippery shoes, and I got my hair pulled and put back in the snowbank. So I said, I need to learn how to fight. So I went to the movies. In the movie theater, there was Game of Death was actually in the movie theaters. And that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
What, 77, 78?
Yeah.
And then I saw the premiere of Enter the Dragon, and I go, that's it. I got to do striking. When I was in 6th grade, there was a local karate school by the movie theater, and I used to sit outside and watch, and it was all sparring. And then I said, do you guys do katas? They go, oh, only for belt testing. He goes, otherwise, we mostly fight and spar. And I go, oh, perfect. So that's how I got into the striking. And then when it transitioned into full contact karate, I was doing point karate tournaments all throughout the Midwest. And they go, you should do the point karate. It's called full contact karate. 8 kicks around, and then the rest is punching. So I fought a fight. I got beat up, and I go, man, I got to learn how to box. There was a boxing gym at Fred Moore Junior High School, and they had a Golden Gloves boxing program, and I jumped in, and right off the bat, my dad goes, don't tell them that you know karate. So my dad wanted me to box. He goes, that karate is very mystical and very deadly. He goes, boxing, now that's a real sport. So I started boxing, and then for some reason, they took me out of calisthenics, and they go, we want you to spar. So I got to go in the other room and start sparring. So then I started competing in Golden Gloves boxing, and that helped me with my kickboxing, which was my taekwondo. And I read all of Bruce Lee's books and magazines. My brother is a wrestler. We used to get in fights all the time. I would kick him in the head, and he would take me down and slam me. That was the running argument. Who would win in a fight, a kickboxer or a grappler? At that time period, I said, what else can I do for a winter sport? And my mom said, how about gymnastics? Because I wanted an individual sport. So I went into gymnastics. At the end of 7th grade, I went into the program, and I became a gymnast. And I was a captain of my gymnastics team in high school. There was 2 co-captains. I was one of the co-captains. And I competed in gymnastics. I was going to go to college for gymnastics, UCLA, after Mitch Gaylord got a perfect 10 on the high bar. I was like,
Fun fact, I went to high school with Mitch Gaylord at Grant High School. He was a year ahead of me. I was not on the gymnastics team. I was in a gymnastics class. We were a bunch of yahoos that he looked down on because then he would come in and do his working out. But this was the 84 Olympics in Los Angeles. Continue.
Wow. So I was supposed to fight in the 88 Olympics in Seoul, Korea in Taekwondo. And I got a motorcycle a week before, and I broke my heel and a hand, and my face bounced off the floor. So I lost my spot, and my teammate, she fought, and she won, got a gold medal. Then she went into movies, and when I moved from Minnesota to move to LA to train with Dan Inosanto to do movie work and to go back to college.
You said a few things I just want to touch on really quick. Number one, that initial experience you had where your coach, who sounds like just an incredibly terrible coach, called you all losers and called you a loser, even though you didn't get to play. There are some people that are just drawn to team sports, and there's some people that are more drawn to individual sports where you don't have to rely on anybody else. It's on you. And it sounds like you're an individual sport guy. I'm definitely an individual sport guy. Happy to be on a team and happy to support a team, but I really like when your fate is in your own hands.
That's right. That's exactly what I was about. And it's funny, when I played baseball, one year I made AAA, and every time I'd go up to bat, I'd either hit a home run or I'd strike out because I was trying to kill the ball. They go, hey, just meet the ball, quit trying to kill the ball. I was the head home run hitter in my league.
So one of the thing I wanted to say, Erik, is that you mentioned which is better, boxing, wrestling, or whatever. And I just want to note, spoiler alert, you got good at all of them, which is the best thing, is just have all of the skills. It's weird how people in our society call karate a martial art, but boxing a sport. They'll call kung fu a martial art, but wrestling a sport. Wrestling, boxing are as much, or in many cases, more of a martial art, a fighting art, than a lot of the things that we think of as martial arts, which have largely just become, like you say, forms, series of movements, dances, and things like that.
I think because they pressure test. So wrestling, you're required to compete. I think it's 3 sides. martial science, martial combat, martial sport.
Interesting. And what are the differences?
Martial science is how it's scientifically put together, why it was created. A lot of the farmers, they use the sickles and the nunchucks to beat rice. The oars are the paddles and the bow staff, and the sickles are the size and the kama, and they used it for wheat, for cutting fields. The oar was for paddling, and when they got invaded, they had to defend themselves, so they just grabbed whatever they had, and those were the weapons of choice. Did you see the movie The Octagon?
Sure.
With Sakura, Tadashi Yamashita, they used the size.
For the listeners who don't know, Google it. It's a 3-pronged metal weapon that you can spin, and it's super impressive.
And same with the kamas. Tadashi was notorious for the kama. He'd like whip him around, and he'd have like holes in his back, bleeding holes from the kamas hitting his back.
Anybody who's worked that, like nunchuck, has whacked themselves in the head or cut themselves now and again, for sure.
It's true. But with Filipino Kali, they would use a stick to prop open the window shade because they're in a straw hut. And when someone would come into the village challenge, they would just grab the stick that was holding up the window shade and go out and fight with it. And if it was serious, then because it's third world country, they always had bladed weapons. So they would go double sticks, single stick and dagger, double dagger, single dagger. And they had all the different flexible weapons, blowguns, the sash. They used the sarong. There's a lot of different weapons that they offer. I wasn't into the weapons as much. I got good at weapons. I wanted to just fight empty hand because I got bullied so much as a little kid. I really wanted to learn how to take care of myself. And I wanted to be a sheepdog. I wanted to help those other people that couldn't fight. I wanted to learn how to fight and defend my friends that were getting beat up also.
I love the concept of sheepdog. There are lambs and there are wolves, but there are sheepdogs who are every bit as tough as the wolves, and they protect the lambs.
That's right. You got to look after the sheep or your friends.
That's right.
That's important.
So you said martial science, martial
art, combat,
and then martial sport.
Martial sport.
And you would call boxing and maybe jiu-jitsu and wrestling, these things are martial sports.
Well, jiu-jitsu traditionally was not. So Japanese jiu-jitsu traditionally, again, was a form of fighting mixed with Aiki jiu-jitsu.
Right.
They had all the striking also. They had all the nerve strikes. That's why they call it a judo chop.
Right. No, I meant Brazilian jiu-jitsu, how it's practiced today.
Yeah, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I think, well, it's the police train it more for self-defense in case of a bad situation. And then others just do competition stuff. So the point system is a must. I went to Ray Diego's class and he was talking about the points. Get your points, get your points. This is get the pass, get the points, take the back, hold the back, stay in that position. So the point system was really stressed at his gym. And I just said, guys, we're going to start from the feet. Most of the fights you'll ever fight, you're going to start from your feet. Unless you're so good, you can just sit down and pull them into you. At the highest level, we start people on the feet. At the beginning level, we don't start people on the feet because most people don't know how to break fall. They post and their shoulder pops out. And unless you own a school, you've got to be careful on all those people posting and landing on their elbow when they get hip tossed and their clavicle pops out, or they don't know how to break fall, they get hurt. So that's why most places start people in the beginning stages. You start on your knees. In the advanced stages, you start in a situation like half guard, butterfly guard, turtle. You start down. The advanced guy always supposed to start down, like either turtle or bottom position.
For sure. I think people take this for granted, but you make a good point. Most jiu-jitsu schools start their regular training on the ground. It's kind of a safety thing. It just makes it easier, safer.
Well, Master Higgins said, let's get to where all the magic happens. So, because I had the guy standing for 3 minutes and he goes, all right, that's enough standing. He goes, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's get down to where all the magic happens.
And if you're Rigan Machado, that is certainly true. Although I went to judo tournaments with him and he was tossing people. He was tossing judo black belts also. So
it's crazy.
He's an amazing grappler. So just real quick, because you've gone through this whole litany of martial arts. You mentioned taekwondo and did karate and boxing, and you started with judo. And of course, Dan Inosanto, which I just actually interviewed Burton Richardson. And so that'll be out just before this. And of course, he talked about all the different things that you could learn at Dan's school. But how did you come in contact with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu?
So I was training in Palm Springs, and all there was at Palm Springs was Taekwondo. So I used to go to Coachella boxing and try to get some boxing in. And then we used to spar with all the guys. And I had a private garage. My friend converted his garage into a gym. and we put mats down and we just started rolling. And I go, hey, all fights are going to end up in a clinch and on the ground. And so this is 1986, and I'm in Tim Tackett's garage. Tim Tackett was a student under one of Bruce Lee's old students, Bob Brimmer, and under Dan Inosanto, Guru Dan. And Tim Tackett had a garage in Redlands, and I started training with him in his garage. And basically what he would do is analyze all the different arts. So we had a sniper, an Army sniper. We had Bert Poe, who was a survival specialist, a tracker, and also the first guy on Normandy Beach. He was a Marine Raider, and he was a sheriff. And he had firsthand knowledge, and he had one of the strongest grips in the world. He got in a fight with a guy on the ground, and he just fish hooked him and ripped his face. And after that, they called the guy Smiley the rest of his life. That was because
of the scar.
Yeah, and he had all these war stories. And when I met him, he had Rick Fay by both of his obliques, and he was pinning him up on the wall like this, and he was holding him up against the wall. And Rick was like, there was no words coming out of his mouth, and I was like, holy crap. He goes, that guy's got the strongest grip in the world. The doctor said he had like a gibbon-like grip. And he said, boy, he goes, the strongest man in the world got the strongest grips. Get yourself a grip trainer, keep it in your car, and use it all the time. So I have like 2 or 3 grip trainers in my car. So I worked my grip. And I had a really good grip because I was a gymnast. So I used to do tons and tons of pull-ups all the time. And we used to grab a scale and test to see. I could get the scale up to about 120.
So just to self, next time we're on the mat, don't let you grab me.
Well, that was before. And that before I had neck surgery. Then when I got neck surgery, my grip
it became more human.
Yeah, it changed everything because I got a little bit of, atrophy into my fingertips and my toes.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah. So when did you connect up with Gracies?
So during the time I was at Tim Tackett's garage, they said, hey, there's a new martial art that's out. It's taken the world by storm. It's called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's these Brazilian guys, and they have an open challenge. They'll fight anybody, and they'll take all comers. And they go, it looks really interesting. I would be interested to see what that's all about. Erik, we will all pitch in and buy you a private lesson. And so I took my first private lesson with Rorion in his garage in 1986. And he was the nicest guy in the world. I thought I was going to maybe have to fight him. And he said, what arts have you studied? And I said a few things. And he goes, okay. And he said, let's say I grab your chest like this, and I'm about to hit you. He goes, what would you do? And I go, what would I do? And I go, well, the first thing I would do, and I go, bing, bing, bing. And that was the eye jab. I did like 3 eye jabs. The second thing I did is I throat chopped him. And then the third thing I did is I hit his bicep like 3 times. It's called a gunting, which means scissors. And what it does is it gives you a dead arm.
Yeah.
So I bam, bam, bam. And he goes, but let's say I'm tough and that doesn't hurt. And he goes, and let's say I don't need my eyes to fight. And I was like, how do you not need your eyes to fight? He goes, watch, this is better. And he grabbed my hand and he propped his elbow on his hip, and then he ducked under my arm and he put me in a hammerlock, and then he pulled my face back, and then I tapped. So he basically hit a hammerlock from the back with the face rip. And he goes, it's all leverage. It's all based on science and leverage, and you don't have to be big to do it. This is how you're going to do it. So he showed me like 5 self-defense techniques. I did all the self-defense that they were teaching back then. And then we got to go on the ground. Like, so at the end of your private, the new guy coming in, got to roll with him for just a few minutes. And then not only that, but Hoist, so Rorion at first, then Hoist would do the techniques to you and show you a few things, how to pass the guard. They had the lesson structure. And I was very inquisitive because I was seeing other arts. And I said, well, what if put your arm in here like that? Can't they triangle you? And they go, that is the next lesson. So they were, can you put the arm in to systematically set yourself up to be triangled? And then the next lesson was the triangle. And then the next lesson after that was the follow-up. And then the next lesson after that was the defense of the triangle. It was interesting because you got to roll with the guy. Someone said, what was it like training with Hoist? And I go, he was always angry. And he taught me how to tap with every part of my body, including my mouth, my feet, my hands. I used to bartend at Sunsets in Manhattan Beach on the pier. And they used to all come in. And I didn't realize, but this girl I worked with was his ex-girlfriend. Her name was Liz. And Liz goes, hey, Erik, I heard you're training with Hoist. Is that true? And I go, yeah. She goes, when are you training with Hoist? I go, right after my shift today. So she called up Hoist. She goes, hey, Hoist, Erik said he's going to kick your ass today. Okay, bye. And I walk in and I go, hi, hey, Hoist, how are you? And he goes, put on the kimono. And I was like, oh, somebody's having a bad day. And he was always like grumpy. And I was like, what's going on? Why? Well, she was always talking smack behind my
I
back.
see.
I don't know why. I continued with the privates. And I was like, wow, this is really intriguing and interesting because we used to grapple, but not really knew what we were doing. And I said, this is similar to judo. And then I asked Rorion, I said, is there any way to get better if I put mats down in my house and roll with my roommate? He goes, oh, no, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, he didn't want you to do training outside of with him.
Yeah. He said, if you want to train, you take more private lessons. And then in 1988, my roommate was training with Hickson. And he said, hey, the meanest of all is this guy. His name's Hickson. And he teaches out of his garage in Torrance. And I go, well, I'm already going to Torrance training with Rorion and Oyce. And I said, do you think I could take a private just to see the difference? And when I went there, he goes, where would you like to start? And I go, can we start on the ground? He goes, what do you think jiu-jitsu is? And I go, self-defense? He goes, oh, that's part of it. He goes, pretty much the magic happens on the ground. Mm-hmm. And so he taught me on the ground, and I learned so much more on the ground than I learned from Hoist at that time. Because Rorion was so busy, Hoist became my teacher. I didn't realize I was claustrophobic until he smothered me. He chest smothered me on my face, and I had to find a little teeny hole in his armpit to breathe.
Just to breathe, yep.
Yeah. And I started having a panic attack because I was asthmatic. And I worked in a smoke-ridden bar till 4 a.m. because people could smoke back then. So I was having problems breathing, and I was tapping, and he wouldn't let me go. And he kept smothering me, and I'm tapping, and I tapped again, and he wouldn't let me go. And I freaked out. I put my thumb in his eye just to get him off me. And I said, listen, I'm sorry. I go, but I was having a panic attack, and I was tapping, and you weren't getting off me. And then I asked Master Rorion, I said, hey, what do I do? I was freaking out. I was having a panic attack on the bottom. And he goes, you must take more privates. The only way to get through the anxiety is to take more privates so you get comfortable on the ground when you're getting smothered, which is actually true.
Yeah.
The more you
need
smothered,
to get used to the experience and realize consciously and very deeply that although you feel like you can't breathe, you can breathe and you'll be okay. But it's very understandable, Erik. I'm not at all surprised. I know so many tough fighters, especially stand-up fighters, who absolutely have panic on the bottom because they're not used to being held down, and it is legitimately hard to breathe. And if you feel like you can't get out, especially if you have a breathing issue, that is a very normal human reaction. And yeah, we've all been there, and you just have to learn from experience that you're okay.
It's true. It's real. Definitely. Have you ever had a dream where you got held down and you couldn't move? And you're wrapped up in your blanket and you're like, oh, sorry.
That would be a bad. No, but I felt that before. In fact, Higan, who I know you then started training with and got your black belt under, which is how I met you, he would spot that in me. And when he would see me doing that, he would hold me down like that too. Or after training, be completely out of breath. He would say I had to lay my gi, which you call the kimono, over my face, right? And you can still breathe, but when you're like feeling claustrophobic and now there's this heavy sweaty gi on your face and it's on your mouth, you just have to calm down. You just have to relax and just kind of breathe through it. Right? You get used to it. Yeah.
I read a story that Hickson used to roll himself up in carpet. Did you ever hear that one?
No. Tell me about that.
He would roll himself up in carpet so he could get through the panic attack, and felt like he was going to die because he couldn't move. And he had to calm himself and go inside to the point where he could be calm in a useless situation. But he used to roll himself up in a carpet.
It's very interesting. So Hickson's intense. If people look online, they can find his sort of like, I forget what he called it.
Gymnastic natural.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, a very complete fighter. So just wondering, were you trying to learn all these different martial arts? You had done striking, you were doing grappling. Were you trying to become a complete fighter, or were you just sort of stumbling onto these things?
Both. I knew the best hands in the world were boxing. Some of the best kickers in the world were Taekwondo guys. The most powerful and most devastating of all kickboxing styles was Muay Thai because of the 9, not 8 weapons, but 9 because of the headbutt. So like the Lao Red or the Cambodian boxing they do a lot of headbutt stuff.
So can I just clarify, are the 8 weapons hands, elbows, knees, feet, and then the 9th is the head? Yeah.
Yes. 2 hands, 2 elbows, 2 knees, 2 shins, and then the Japanese say zuku or zutsuki, which is a headbutt. Guru Dan started taking Cambodian boxing, and they really teach a lot of the headbutt stuff.
Headbutt is a great technique.
The front headbutt, side butt, back headbutt. Here's the problem. If you use it in a real fight, to defend yourself is one thing. But if you headbutt someone in a real fight, the odds of you getting sued are so high because you're going to break their faceplate or smash their nose if it's done correctly. So I think the headbutt, as far as for all out self-defense, is a wonderful weapon. You don't have to sit and practice it for 5 hours a day on the heavy bag. All you got to do is nod really fast and get your head lower than their head. But as far as devastating styles, Muay Thai, and then as far as the ground, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in 1988, there was a seminar at the Unisano Academy, and it showed a guy punching, clinching, suplexing, punching on the ground, and then submitting him with the Americana, or pillow. We say V-arm lock or Americana.
Yeah.
And then they showed a guy kicking, catching, takedown, and ankle locking. And I was like,
So
wow,
you were looking at somebody stringing it all together.
Yeah, I was like, what is that all about? And it was actually a punch, kick, throw, submit. And I was like, wow, that looks interesting. And man, in 1988, I took a seminar with Sensei Yuri Nakamura, and he taught 30 catch wrestling moves. Combination one is 30 techniques. I've only seen like 2 of these moves. And then he showed me probably 12 leg locks, ankle lock, heel hook, toe hold. And I was like, holy crap. And then I went home to my roommate. He was a blue belt under Hickson. And he goes, hey, how's that seminar? I go, oh, it was amazing. I learned a bunch of new things. And he goes, like what? And I ankle locked him. And then I hit a pillow V-arm lock, which they're calling the J-lock now. That's a pillow V-arm lock from judo. Anyways, I did that on him. And he goes, holy crap. He goes, what is this stuff? I go, it's my new secret weapon. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, Jiu-Jitsu is more transitioning, attacking an arm, taking the back, taking the neck, getting the mount. And I said that Shooto, the grappling, is throwing right into an immediate submission, which they call a quick kill. And there's no time lapse between the throw or the takedown to the submission, which I liked. And then the other thing is they had a diversity of incremental movements when you're moving your arm from low to straight to bent to V to up above the head to across. And I was like, oh, they have a lock because it's Japanese mentality. So incrementally, every time you move your arm, there's a submission. And I was like, that's interesting. And then Hickson said, it's not about 100 moves once, it's one move 100 times. And it's true because you become an expert. You could kill a whole room with one armbar or a rear choke. So that was interesting just to see the differences. It's intriguing to see an art that was stringing it together. And then the fact that he told me there was a competition in Japan, they actually fight in it. And I was like, do you guys actually have fights? And he goes, yeah. And he gave me a tape. And I watched it and I go, wow, this is exciting. I want to do that. And so my first lesson with Higgin was actually in 1986 when Hoist couldn't show up one day. And he came in and he said, where would you like to start? I go, can we start on the ground? And so I did a private and I was like, wow. And Hoist said, how was the private with my cousin? I go, it was amazing. He did a lot of technique on the ground. And I said, I really like that. I wanted to learn more about the ground, not so much self-defense, but I wanted to learn more. He goes, but you have to go through the self-defense protocol in order for you to get to the ground, which was part of the teaching.
That's how Hoist and Rorion were teaching it at the time.
And then they had garage training. Did you know about the Blue Belt garage class?
Sure.
I wasn't invited, but I peeked in the window one time at night, and I remember seeing a purple belt in there.
It must have been Bob Bass.
So I go, what is that? It's a purple belt. And it was just all rolling. They were rolling. I was like, no wonder these guys are getting so good. They got a group together and they just all start rolling. That was amazing.
Yeah, I wanted to be invited to that for a while. And I remember when I first got invited, because I was training with the Machado Brothers, their other school in the San Fernando Valley, an hour and a half away.
Is that where you started? Out the valley?
Yeah, I started in the valley. I lived in the valley. But that's why it took a little while for me to show up in the South Bay, because I had to be invited. But getting you back to Japan and Shooto. So this is at a time when the UFC, I guess, hasn't even happened yet.
So because I was combining arts, boxing, kickboxing, judo. My brother is a wrestler, so we would wrestle all the time. Also, being a gymnast, I was strong and flexible. That helped. And then I wanted to get my ground game better as much as I could. So I said, I just need good bodies. That's all I need is good bodies. I don't care about a belt. I care about training partners. That's it. So I was trying to find as many good training partners as I possibly could get. And the only way to do that was to go where all the best guys are rolling, and that was jiu-jitsu. And so there was really no other place. You could go to wrestling class, judo class. It's not the same. Jiu-jitsu practice was way different. So I was mixing the arts like that. In 1989, since you gave me a video, it was Shooto fights in Japan, first generation. And I watched all of it. I said, I want to do that. And then he said, okay. So we started formulating a plan that I was going to prepare to get ready to go to Japan to fight. Rorion and I had talked about the UFC in his living room, and he said, hey, I want to show you this idea. I want to bounce it off of you. He goes, we're contemplating this new event where all these different styles fight each other, and it's going to showcase Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because Jiu-Jitsu has to go against all these other styles of martial arts. And he showed me a diagram of a crane coming down with a cage on it, and then they would bolt it in.
These are the early concepts of what became the octagon.
And I said, well, what if the cage is already bolted in and the fighters are walking in and they're presented with their arms, and then the last thing you hear is that door going smack, and then the bolt going down. He goes, oh, interesting. That's an interesting. I go, yeah, people don't want to watch a construction of a cage being built or people screwing a cage in. I said, so yeah, I think that would be better. Just have it screwed in and it's the cage door closing and boom. 2-man enter, 1-man comes out. He showed me that back in 1988, I think, was his idea about that, because he showed me the history of his family and all the newspaper clippings. And Henner and the kids, Halleck and Rose, were all little kids watching TV. They're watching cartoons. And it was interesting. This idea had been coming about, but I said, listen, I do boxing, I do kickboxing, judo, and grappling. I would love to fight. I would love to try. So we were formulating this plan. By 1990, I was ready to go to Japan to fight, and they were talking about the UFC. And so I said, well, if there's a UFC, I would love to fight in that. And they go, really? And I said, yeah, I want to fight. And there was a casting call for a shoot wrestler. And I go, I'll do it. Can I be a shoot fighter?
Yeah, but you had been training jiu-jitsu with them. I'll bet you they didn't want that.
And Hicks had said, well, the odds of you fighting Hoist would be very high. So if you fight my brother, I can't train you.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I just thought it was a big tournament. And he goes, yeah, I mean, when you win, you and my brother would end up fighting each other. And I go, well, I wouldn't want to fight Hoist. He's my teacher. And I said, I don't want to fight my teacher out of respect. And so that was before the UFC. And then what happened, I was fighting in Japan. Late 92, I got ready. Chad and I, the director of John Wick, we got our invitation to go to Japan to fight. So we both fought in Japan in early 1993.
Which was right around the time the UFC was happening.
Yeah, that was in November. We fought in April.
Just for our listeners who are young or just may not know about this kind of history. So I think people in the West see the UFC, which was truly amazing, as like the first kind of no holds barred mixed martial arts kind of thing. And what was, in my view, weird about the UFC was it was this fighting between styles. There was no gloves unless you wanted to wear gloves for some reason. There was no weight classes. There was no time limit. So it was a crazy kind of thing. What was happening already in Japan was a much more refined, with weight classes and maybe with gloves, but they were ahead of the game with more integrated punches, takedowns, kicks, and real support and actually some money behind it in Japan at that time.
And it was very technical. If you looked at Shooto, there were 5 different events there. Shooto was the only pure, real fight card. You had rings, you had pancrase, you had Pride later on.
Yep.
And then you had pro wrestling. Most of those cards were predetermined or works. Not all the fights were works, but if you take a card and there's one predetermined fight on the card, it's deemed as not 100% real.
Right.
So when I fought, there was no rope escape in Shooto. Pancrase had rope escape. They started open hand fighting. We started with gloves.
So just to clarify, rope escape means if you grab the ropes, you break the clinch.
Yeah. So like if you catch me in an ankle lock and I can crawl back and grab a rope,
suddenly you get stood up again.
It's a reset. Yeah. The dynamics for pancrase were super interesting for the crowd. Most of the guys wore skivvies. They wore the little bikini bottoms. Yeah. They all were buffed and tan. And
Ken Shamrock came from pancrase, right? And then fought in the UFC.
Ken Shamrock and I, at the time, we had almost the same record as far as MMA fighting went. And then they said, well, we found a shoot fighter, Eric, so we've already got him. I go, who's that? And they go, Ken Wayne Shamrock.
Yeah.
And I go, but there's hardly any American shoot fighters. And they go, well, Ken is one. And then I looked him up and I go, oh, okay. Oh, shit. He looks the part because he was muscular.
Super buff. Super buff.
Yeah. And he was like bodybuilder, little shorts, strong body, just looks like a football player.
Yeah.
So they chose him because he would be a perfect opponent for jiu-jitsu. And at the time, those type of fights were happening in Japan all the time, and in Brazil too. They were having mixed martial arts matches where a judoka would fight a wrestler, a jiu-jitsu guy would fight a luta libre guy.
So I think the distinction is between, you can have fights where you have fighters who are well-rounded in all of the ranges fighting, which is what we think of as MMA today. Back then, what UFC was doing is you're taking fighters from different styles, and they're each going to try to, one would think, make their style work, unless they just abandon their style and start doing something entirely different.
Street fighting or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right. It was a comparison of styles, which
Right.
really showcased and highlighted jiu-jitsu. And back then,
Right.
nobody knew jiu-jitsu.
That's right.
So they had that market cornered. In Japan, it was actually already a sport. The punching, kicking, throwing, submission was already a sport in Japan with ranking.
And
they
so
even
you started fighting in Japan, and you won the world championship, first American, yeah, in Shooto?
I was the first American to fight in Shooto in Japan in '93, and then the first American to challenge five. I fought 5 champions. I had to beat 5 champions in order for me to even qualify to fight for the belt. I even beat the light heavyweight champion of Japan. I armbarred him 2 years before I had a rematch with him at a title match. So the first time I armbarred him, and the second time it took me 2 years for him to prepare and get ready to fight again. And the second fight I fought him, I ankle locked him, reverse toe hold, and broke his knee. And I won the belt in 1996.
Which is amazing. And back then, I've got to ask, because I remember seeing some of this stuff back in the day and seeing you had long hair, right? You used to pull it back into a ponytail.
Yeah, I was a stuntman. So in Hollywood, I got a lot of parts because of my look. I got a lot of bad guy parts, and I had long hair because it was a good selling point to be a bad guy in a movie.
So do I remember there was a fight you had when I guess hair grabbing was legal and someone was actually grabbing your hair in a professional fight?
That was WCC in 1995. I got hired as a Viking warrior on Sinbad, the movie Sinbad. We're shooting in Morocco, and the movie got pushed a little bit. And so I had to have long hair in order to be the Viking warrior. That was supposed to be a good paying job. And when I went to North Carolina to fight, I'm like, I'll just get my hair cornrowed. How hard is it to find someone that could cornrow my hair, right? In North Carolina.
Yeah.
Couldn't find one person. And my buddy goes, oh, don't worry, just put it in a bun, you'll be fine. He goes, don't cut your hair. You got that movie coming, don't cut your hair. So I put it in a top bun, and then I bunned the bun. So I wrapped it and wrapped it again. So it was really tight, and I pulled it back. And man, I fought Sean McCulley, and he got his fingers in my hair. I was practicing in my garage with a boxing face saver headgear. It's a ringside, so
Yeah.
you can't punch. There's no open eight, like a figure 8 here.
Yeah.
There's a bar. It's called a face saver. So we were hitting each other on the ground with that, and we're going to Keisagatami, head and arm, and we were headlocking, hitting each other. It's a lot different defending Keisagatami with your head pulled straight back if your head's, just imagine put your head straight back, put your head straight backwards.
Yeah.
And not try to fight like that.
Yeah, with someone yanking your head back, yanking your chin up. Yeah.
My chin was up, and he was clipping me with elbows on my temples. Yeah. And I was like, man, if I get out of this, I knew he wasn't going to knock me out, but I was like, okay, he needs to let go of my hair. And then there was a 2-minute time limit, and it ran out. And then he stood us back up, and I go, all right, reset. And then I beat Sean. I actually took him down, and Cecil People goes, no submissions. I go, I'm not submitting him. I put my hooks in and just started elbowing the back of his neck. I think I elbowed him like 8 to 12 times in the back of the neck. The spike was legal. I elbow spiked him, and then I snap elbowed him, knocked his mouthpiece out with a hook, and his mouthpiece flew across the cage. And then he tapped out. When I got up, I walked over, I grabbed his mouthpiece, and I handed it back to him. And the Boom Boom's like, whoa, I just gave his mouthpiece back to Sean McCulley. And then I went to the semifinal. I got to fight James Waring. James Waring was training with this guy. What's the guy from Rambo?
I don't know.
Okay, well, anyways, he said, listen, the last guy just pulled his hair, and you get your fingers stuck in that hair, and don't you dare let go. So I fought with my head back like this, and we were kneeing each other in the balls. I need him, he need me, I need him, I stomped his foot, he stomped my foot. My head was back. I had him against the cage. He was pulling my head back, and I was just trying to hockey punch him. And then he spun me to the cage, and he hit me. And I'm like, this is a bad spot. So I spun back, and I was pressing him against the cage, but I couldn't get his hand loose. And he's like, give up. I go, let go of my hair. And he goes, just give up. And I go, make me. And then I'm like, I'm hitting him, and all of a sudden I go, hey, there's Cynthia Rothrock out in the audience. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm fighting. And then anyways, we kept going, and I slipped, and he had my hair, and he was spinning me on the ground like a top. And he wouldn't let go of my hair. And he was trying to stomp my head, soccer punt, and stomp my head as he was spinning me. And I was spinning. I was going to spin, like breakdance, and then pop up to my feet, and then keep going. He wouldn't let go, and all of a sudden, here comes the towel. Chad was so scared he threw a towel. I was so mad. I was like, I was going to beat him. Why did you throw in the towel? Why would I endure all that pain and punishment if I didn't think I was going to win? And he goes, he wasn't going to let go. His fingers were like glued.
Tangled up,
We were only supposed to fight with a piece of tape around our knuckles, and this guy had full-on hand wraps, and they were signed off by the commission because he was a WBO boxing cruiserweight champion. The fastest knockout in history was 23 seconds from him, and he comes out with casts on his hands. I go, those hand wraps are illegal. And he goes, so what? He goes, they signed off on it. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Like,
so they're actually making his knuckles be harder. They're supporting his knuckles and putting something hard on the knuckles that can knock you out.
And he was like, I think he was like 50 pounds heavier than me.
This was a crazy time, Erik. Spoiler alert, you ended up in future fights. I think you didn't have long hair anymore.
Yeah, I cut my hair. I fought in Japan in 96. I won the belt. And then after that fight where I got my hair pulled, I cut my hair. I went to the Pan Ams, and I won the Pan Ams as a blue belt in Redondo Beach.
Yeah.
Did you compete in that?
Was that the first Pan Ams?
Yeah, 96.
Yes, I did. That was my first tournament. I had won an Inter Machado school tournament at Purple Belt. I fought at Purple Belt in the first Pan Ams. Okay, so Erik, you've trained in all these different arts. You have been referred to as like an encyclopedia of martial arts, but you're extremely creative. I think I mentioned to you, you're the first person I ever saw do a Superman punch, which if the people listening don't know what it is, go look it up. But like, you are extremely creative. How do you think about creativity in the martial arts? Is that something you just bring to it? Do you encourage that in people? Where do you fall on do what the instructor teaches you or be creative?
Well, first of all, learn the move and get good at it, but then look at all the variations that come from that one move. So I think every move that you're taught, everything is based on a series due to an action and reaction. So if I go to hit let's say an Americana on you, what they call Udigarami.
Right.
So Gaku Udigarami is a Kimura or chicken wing. And we call V arm lock because it's a V. That's it.
That's right.
And then Bob Anderson created the Americana. He did it to holes, and they called that the Americana because he's an American wrestler. Anyways, when they react to that, sometimes they straighten their arm down. Sometimes they straighten their arm out. Sometimes they bridge and straighten. Sometimes they loop it over their head. That's where all the series and the follow-ups come from reactions from different people. So one of the biggest things I said, the only way to get better at any of the ground stuff is you got to roll all the time. You got to roll with everybody and roll all the time. And that's how you download information, see how people react, because everyone reacts differently. And I think due to a reaction, some people, when you attack an ankle lock, they grab your elbow and they kick their leg through and they put the boot on, right? Others grab the back of their knee and they retract their leg. People try to grab their head and climb up. Some people control the hands or one hand so you can't get such a good grip on it. One's not right and one's not wrong. I just find that variations come, and creativity for me comes from writing. I write the move and then I just start writing follow-ups, because when you roll a lot, I dream that I'm rolling, and in my dreams I'm dreaming like counters, defense. There's been 2 girls in my life that I actually escaped an armbar in my sleep, and I elbowed them in the face.
Oh, no.
Elbow escape. And she's like, oh, you just elbowed me. I go, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. These are the hazards of dating a fighter. Frank Shamrock, when I talked to him in an interview recently, he also mentioned that he dreamt even after he retired, it took quite a while before he stopped dreaming of fights.
That is super creativity. I think the creativity is thinking outside of the box. And then again, it helps you almost telepathically when you're rolling with someone. and you're in their guard and you push their knee down, you know they're probably going to shin block you. Most people will shin block you. That's an easy way to set up an ankle lock. You just push their knee down in the guard, and then all of a sudden they shin block, and then boom, you jump to a heel hook. And the same thing, if I stand up in your guard, I know most of the time you're going to back sweep me. So if I stand up with my head up, you're going to back sweep. So then I grab the knee and I pinch and turn, then that gives you another ankle lock.
Right.
So I learned the catch wrestling from Shooto, which was approximately 150 submissions. There's 12 combinations. And then I said, I wonder if I could put this into the jiu-jitsu and make it work with jiu-jitsu instead of it being two separate arts. Have a combined art where you can attack from every position, defend, and be strong at defense and transitions. And some of the movement, when I was in Japan, I was watching the fighters move. And this is no lie, when I first went to Japan, I saw them do two things that I brought back to America. Number one was the S, or the Z mount. Mm-hmm. I was watching him climb up the guy sideways, and I go, it's interesting. It's like a crooked mount. And then I started calling it the Z mount. And that was in 1993. And then lower body control is you only control their legs, and you hold just their legs and clamp on their hips. But you reverse K's and face their legs. A lot of the leg lockers would just go low body control. And I found out that there's a couple judo players that were notorious for that style, where they'd only hold your legs. And then they would get mount. They call tate shiho. They get mount, spider mount you from there, or they would go to north and south from there, or they would helicopter mount, reverse helicopter mount. So I came up with something I call a star drill. A star drill starts with side control, Kazuri Keiza, north and south, spin around the head, Kazuri Keiza, side control. And then I said, if we make it called around the world, then you mount and dismount. And then if we want to make it better, we add mount, dismount to knee on belly, go back to the mount, dismount to knee on belly, go off to side control, and go back through the circle. Then let's add the low body control star drill. That's number two, where we control the legs. You pull their far knee, spider mount. You run around their head, go to north and south, or you reverse helicopter mount so you can attack the legs. I call it the morning newspaper. It's like you're sitting on the toilet reading the morning newspaper. But today it's the morning iPad or the cell phone.
So, okay, so there are lock flows which string together finishes. And am I correct in sort of describing this as a positional flow where you're stringing together control positions?
Yeah, yes. Okay. That's the star drills I teach all the kids. And then I have a star drill for the turtle. When the person's in a turtle and you spin to their side, you put your knee in, and then you switch your knee, and then you go to the truck, it's called leg riding from wrestling. And then you step over the far ankle, and you have your knees at a 90-degree angle, and you can hip bump them and actually turn them by that. Then you crab ride or frog ride them. Don't put your hooks in. And then you go back to the truck and then switch your knees. And that's the next star drill.
So this is that creativity I'm talking about, and that this encyclopedic knowledge of stuff. If you have links or examples of this stuff online, I'll be sure to add them in the show notes. But so for someone starting out now in martial arts, you have trained in very specific systems. You've assimilated things from all kinds of systems. You were, of course, at Dan Inosanto's Academy, where he gives different things. Do you have any thoughts on whether someone should go to one art like jiu-jitsu or Thai kickboxing and get good at that and then branch out from there? Or should someone be looking for more of a synthesized MMA art? Or what are your thoughts on how to draw from all of these different sources most efficiently now?
So there's a couple theories on that. Like for me, I wanted to find the best teachers that taught striking. So I went to Master Ajahn Chai. He is our Thai boxing coach. Guru Dan brought him in to teach Thai boxing. We had Salim Asli, which is our Savat coach. And then we had Nikolai Sonyak, who is a professional Savat fighter. So I wanted to learn the different styles of kickboxing. And then I box. I have probably 6 different boxing coaches that I train with. Even to this day, I still box all the time because I think you could end a lot of fights with just some good hands and good defense. There's a lot of watered down martial arts today because there's not a lot of people that got really good and went in depth. And then some of them that are like traditional karate. Jim Liu wants to go learn traditional Okinawa karate now, which is weird to me. I said, why don't you learn like a fighting style like Kyokushin or something? He goes, I don't know. I just really like the Okinawan stuff. So he wants to go back to an authentic martial art, which is intriguing. But a lot of guys just go, I want to do MMA. So now you got a bastardized version of a guy who might not be a very good boxer. He might be an okay Thai boxer. He
Mhm.
might not even know what Savate or Taekwondo is. He's a mediocre wrestler. He's not very good at submission, but he's good at takedowns. Or he's really good at ground and pound. Or you get a guy that's really good at submissions and doesn't know how to punch his way out of a paper bag. So I believe it's either striking or grappling or weaponry. Weaponry should always be included. Like Bert Richardson said, everyone's got a weapon. You always assume everyone's got a weapon on them.
And he said that to me too. So just in terms of having a knowledge of a lot of different stuff, do you think that a well-rounded fighter needs to know 100 different
It's
finishes?
too much. It's too technical.
Well, there's that, and then there's what Hickson said, which is, hey, if you've got good control, you can tap everybody with literally one finish. I'm
As a
wondering
competitor.
how important is it for a fighter to have like a, let's just say a big menu of stuff versus a coach, right? Because a coach, I guess, really should have a big menu because they want to
That's
be able
right.
to teach everything to fighters.
That's right.
So you agree that a coach should have a lot of options, but how important is it for a fighter versus just get good at one thing and go with that?
Well, one of the easiest ways to train a fighter is to warm them up and then put the gloves and shin guards on them and make them spar. Someone said, when I come to your gym, how long do I train with you before we get to spar? And I go, today. And he goes, what? At this other authentic Muay Thai school, we have to train 6 months on the bag before we ever get to. I go, that's authentic Muay Thai. I said, what are you and your buddies going to do on the weekend? You're going to watch the UFC, probably drink a couple beers, put on some gloves, and try to fight each other in your living room. And I go, at least I can watch you guys fight a little bit. And then you want to delve more into the arts and go, hey, I really want to get good at kicking. I really want to get good at the clinch. I want to learn how to elbow and knee. I want to learn how to catch a kick, take a guy down. I want to learn how to take a striker to the ground. And then that would be more shootboxing or MMA. And then as a striker, I want to learn how to get taken down and then get back up to my feet. They call wrestle ups. So now all the nogi grapplers are wrestling up. They're all trying to wrestle up to get back up to their feet. And it's not new. And I said,
nothing is new.
I said a long time ago, you know what? All these top level jiu-jitsu guys, they're all going to get a wrestling coach. In order for them to compete in the future, everyone's going to get good at takedowns. And they're going to learn how to hand fight. They're going to hand fight for warm-up. They're going to do 1 to 2 to 3 takedowns, get a good takedown, and then they're going to fight on the ground and then wrestle back up. There's going to be a big insurgence of wrestling that's going to be added to jiu-jitsu.
This is the originator of Shooto. This is Satoru Sayama, and then it's on technical shooting. So that's what I saw. It was spats. They had to wear spats, which are tights. It was interesting because it was mixing all the arts. Back when we first were training, there was really not an answer to a Muay Thai kick except for a shield. You'd shield,
Yeah,
eject
lift
the
your
kick,
knee and deflect it slightly.
or evade or ride the kick. Shooto came out, and Sensei Yuri, when he came in, he goes, Thai kick me. I Thai kick him. He caught my kick. And I go, holy crap. And he took me down and ankle locked me. And then he did it again. He put me in a half Boston crab. And then he had his spinning knee bar. And it was all systemized. So he had catch A, which is an overhook. Catch B is an underhook. Catch C is a front overhook. Catch D is and then you pull and then you sweep them. So he had all these kick catches. It was an answer to Muay Thai. And then he had all the takedowns from they call the Kabismo, which is the plum. And he started doing all these throws. He did jumping Victor Nagi, which is a dive roll knee bar, drop sail Nagi, Kubi Nagi is a head and arm throw with a pariah goshi, back trip, hip toss, suplex. And I was like, wow, this is perfect because it's combining all the arts like that. And for me, it was intriguing because it was finally a chance to mix all the arts that we were doing and combine them and put them together in a smooth fashion. And then the secret weapon for me was the fact that I was doing jiu-jitsu and learning how to roll and defend and get out and not so much attack. They'll get to the back, get to the neck, get to the mouth, but dominant control, escaping bad, horrible positions and transitions. And for me, that was my secret weapon because in Japan, nobody did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In fact, I got accused by Hickson and Limon. They said, we know you're teaching Jiu-Jitsu to the Japanese. And I go, why would I teach the Japanese what I'm secretly using on them when I'm fighting? Why would I go there and teach them what I'm using? That's absurd. That's the dumbest thing in the world. And I hooked Hickson up with his fights in Japan. I asked him 3 years in a row if he wanted to fight in Japan because they said, we heard you train with Hickson. would he like to fight in Japan in Shooto in the tournament? And I came back with 3 offers. First offer was 15 and 15. He goes, not enough money. So next time I went back, they gave me another offer.
When you say
30
15,
and 50.
15 to fight and 15 to win.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it was 30 and 30. And he goes, still not enough. And then I went back one more time and they said, all right. And the offer was 50 and 50. He goes, let's negotiate. So I hooked up a meeting with Sensei Yuri and Hickson and Kim, Sensei Yuri and Hiromi, and we went to Cheesecake Factory and they negotiated their deal for him to fight in Japan.
And he did a number of fights in Japan, and I think Hickson was very successful in Japan.
Yeah, he did really well. And you should have seen all the judokas just licking their chops when him and Euler did that demo.
Oh, of course, everybody wanted it.
They were like this.
Henzo went to Japan, and this was a big rivalry between Japanese fighters and Brazilian fighters at that time.
It was a big thing. And the Japanese really wanted to beat jiu-jitsu because they wanted to prove that it came from Japan originally.
But of course, those are Japanese words, jiu-jitsu, the gentle art, sure.
That was funny. One time I walked into Hickson's and I go, yeah, Professor, how come you guys don't bow in or bow out on the mat? I mean, it keeps the discipline. It stops them from being late. Give them 50 push-ups if they walk in late. He goes, that's not the Brazilian way. And I went, okay. And I said, but didn't jiu-jitsu come from Japan? Pay respects and honor for the lineage? He goes, yes, but it was perfected in Brazil.
Wow, that's okay. Well, look,
That's funny.
that's the attitude, right? It's nothing, of course, is ever perfected. It's always in the process of being perfected. Yeah, I hear you. I came from more traditional styles where we bowed. And I remember when I got that lesson, it was always, it still is weird for me. I still do a little mini bow going on and off the mat just because out of respect. And also it's just, for me, it's like thankfulness. Like when I step off the mat, I'm just kind of thankful that I didn't get injured. And I don't know, it's just a thing I do. I used to always also kind of put my belt to my forehead before I put it on, just as kind of a little mini prayer for like, let's not hurt anybody. Let's have safe training. But I remember when I was training and we in a group class and Higgin took off his belt and was doing like a snap thing, like at people's backs to like whip them to make it harder. And I remember looking at him doing that with his black belt and me just thinking like, I have never seen anyone do anything like that with their belt, because everything for me was like so much respect and a black belt. But I'm now part of the Brazilian culture too.
The rat tail. I know Chris Sauter said that was his creation.
Well, and when you got a new belt that you had to walk through a line of people with your hands up and no shirt on and have them whip your front and whip your back go through. He says he regrets that. I loved that. I'm sure you'd get sued today, but I just got to say I loved that. But you mentioned that you are back to coaching, and who are you on the mat with these days?
So what happened? I had a fight team for 25 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And I was on my 3rd generation of guys. And when I gave the fight team over, I was traveling 7 days a week. I mean, I was teaching in the daytime and at nighttime, 5 days a week. And on the weekends, doing seminars. My day off was on an airplane. And I did it for 18 years. It got to the point where it's too much. So I said, okay, I'm going to give the fight team up to one of my pro fighters. And so he took the practice over. And there was 5 things I just requested at first. I said, please don't do these 5 things. And I think you would agree with that. The 5 things. Number 1, try to make people show up on time, because you're a professional fighter. Doctors just don't show up whenever they feel like it. They show up, they have to be prompt and on time. So you guys got to be punctual with your time. Number 1. Number 2, don't get stoned before practice. Don't drink a beer before practice. Don't come in hungover. Turn your phones off. How hard is that? Unless you're a doctor and you're on call, turn your phone off. Or unless somebody's sick, turn your phone off. If there's a girl in practice, she's not fresh meat. She's off limit. She's your teammate. She doesn't have a bullseye on her back. Don't hit on the girl in practice if there's a girl, which is a big problem right now. And then what else? Oh, yeah. How about your words? Your words mean everything. I get once in a while you drop an F-bomb, but guess what? The second somebody swears, then the second everyone else starts following the lead. The profanity needs to be kept out of the gym. I'm going to treat my gym like it's a church. You don't go to church and drop F-bombs. And at my school, even though you're training to fight, listen, mind your mouth. That's your manners. That's gratitude. It's respect. So I'm walking in the gym and I'm listening to the fighters talk. They drop 15 F-bombs in 45 seconds. And where does that come from? It comes from the coach. That means the coach is dropping F-bombs. And if he says it's okay, then you're going to do the same thing. It's extremely important that we are attempting to make ourselves better people all the way around, all the way around. Not just a better fighter. You're talking crap. You're swearing all the time. Guess what? You're attracting negative energy. It's almost like a spell. When you're swearing all the time like that, you're attracting negativity. Then other people hear it and they do the same thing. Are you bankrupt vocabulary wise? You're bankrupt. That's all you can do is drop F-bombs. Like, let's have a normal conversation. Keep profanity out of your mouth. Keep our minds clean. Let's focus on our training. Whatever you want to do when you leave here, do it. But if you're in my gym swearing, what are you going to do when you leave my gym? You're going to even talk worse than you are in here. And it got to the point where these guys were talking so much shit on each other and swearing at each other. And I put my ear in the locker room and I was listening. I was like, whoa, man, you show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are. And I was listening to these guys talk. I go, man, I wouldn't hang out with one of you guys the way you guys are talking. I want to hang out with people that have a healthy relationship, that talk and praise, build people up. And it got to the point where it got so bad, I just go, that's it. Fight practice is over. You guys ruined it. I said, you guys are filthing up the gym. I said, I want to keep my gym a clean gym, a good environment, a healthy environment. A mother couldn't come in and sit and watch practice because of the way you guys are talking, before, during, and after. And the last thing I asked everyone to do is they have to run before practice. You got to hit the road. Now, if you run after practice, that's fine, as long as you're running. I said, if you're a fighter and you're not running, you're not fighting. Do you run for jiu-jitsu?
Yes, actually, I do sprints.
So you're the smart one.
Oh, I swear by my sprints, man. And I do them Tabata style, where I'll sprint, I will rest for half as long as the sprint, so I'm not getting full recovery, and then I'll go back and do it again. It's my magic sauce.
And not only that, the sprint is the number one exercise you could do that will like quadruple your testosterone.
Which is why I'm such a stud.
That's it. That's exactly why. Do you do ice baths?
Any chance I get. I don't have one here, so I do cold showers, but I've got a buddy who has a cold plunge, and it's refrigerated water, and he's got it circulating the whole thing so you don't build the warmth around your body. I love it.
Yeah. I try to do an ice bath every day, and I meditate while I'm in the ice bath.
So I don't remember where I was reading. You had some health issues that you've sort of come around to, I don't know, has changed your philosophy.
Yeah.
What happened?
So I was always spiritual. I mean, I worked in downtown LA at a ministry called St. Martin de Porres Ministries. I was there for about 7 or 8 years. And then due to all my neck trauma, I got a staph infection in my lungs and it wrapped around my spinal cord and it went all the way up to the second vertebrae. And I got septic. I was getting ozone treatments and I noticed one of the bags that I had was half full, and I don't know if it was from that or what, but my arm was super hot after I got back, and I started hallucinating, and I went to the hospital, and they said in the next 24 hours or so, Eric's not going to be around. So you have to make a choice what you're going to do. And I closed my eyes, I would see a new face every 5 seconds, and I couldn't move. My entire body was septic. And anyways, I had to have surgery. They had to cut the front, move my windpipe over. They had to suck all the pus out.
Yeah, clean it out.
And then they go, oh my God, the amount of damage this guy has to his throat.
Of course.
And they go, look, 5 bone spurs, for getting choked so many times, 4 calluses. My throat was flat. My windpipe was flat. And I was choking on food every day. So that was a 3.5-hour surgery. And on the back, they cut me again. They found I had 4 herniated discs. And they fused 6 discs in the back. So I was in the hospital for a month. After my surgery, my whole family showed up and they said they gave me about 8 days to live because they thought it was in my brain or my heart. They weren't quite sure. And then the doctors kept coming in and they go, how's our miracle? And I was like, what do you mean? They go, you're a miracle. I go, what do you mean? They go, you should have lived through that. How you were walking around was one thing, but the fact that you lived after being so septic and having the infection wrapped around my spinal cord like a candy cane, they thought for sure it was in my brainstem, in my brain, or in my heart. And the fact that it didn't penetrate that was amazing enough. And I was in bed for 4 months. I had to relearn how to walk. My back went out on me. Have you ever slept in bed for a week straight? Your legs will go out on you.
Oh, yeah. No, you atrophy for sure.
So that's what happened. And then after that, it was like a reboot. I just strengthened my beliefs. in God, because I even said, I said, why did you spare me? I went out in the lawn and meditated, and I go, what was the purpose of being spared? I mean, why didn't I die? And first thing he said is, you have more people to inspire. And then he kept saying, all you need to do is aspire to inspire. And I was like, what does that mean? They go, just keep doing your work, posting your work. You're helping a lot of people. I want a lot of people to see a lot of the old stuff that people had never seen. I was videotaping my training late 80s, early 90s, and I have so much video footage that nobody's ever seen of sparring and rolling and stick fighting. And there's so much stuff that I think it's inspirational because, first of all, I was in my prime time. I was still young and I was super ambitious. I think we were really cutting edge back then at that time. And there's just some really cool stuff. And it's kind of cool to watch. I'm like, wow, it's pretty cool. I never even knew I had that.
That's amazing. I've seen some of the stuff that you're posting and I love it. Keep posting it. In terms of your coaching, are you working just with professional fighters or regular people? I'm wondering if businessmen are coming to you.
Let's see. I teach jiu-jitsu Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I teach catch wrestling right behind that. So I go gi no gi, and then I teach shoot boxing, which is punching, kicking, and throwing. Those are all classes, and those are for normal people. And then I started fight practice back up Tuesday, Thursday mornings. And the whole reason I started the fight practice back up was because I was in my ice bath and I got a question asked as I was in my ice bath during a meditation. Said, would you ever consider coming out of retirement for fighting? And I said, well, you mean coaching? And they go, coaching. I go, it would have to be the right person. Mm-hmm. And then I said, if this is you, God speaking to me, it would have to be sent from you. And then all of a sudden he goes, well, what about two? And I go, I think one's enough. One would be enough. And he goes, it's a 2-part package. And I was like, let me think about it. And then the next day, all of a sudden the manager of the Ruotolos goes, the real reason we're here today, Eric, is because Cade opened his blabber after his last jiu-jitsu win. And they said, hey, Cade, what's next for you? And he goes, I don't know, MMA. And he started laughing. So all of a sudden, Matt Hume is the matchmaker. And Matt Hume is already trying to book him a fight. And I go, when would that fight be? And he goes, 1 month. And I go, you got a month? I go, have you ever done MMA? And he goes, no. And I was like, you got to show up tomorrow. You got to come in. I'm going to pressure test you. So I came in. I pressure tested him for 5-minute rounds. I gave him a new person. Every 2 minutes, he got a fresh person. And man, he not only got better every round, he was submit everyone every round. And his distance, timing, and head movement, and ability to mix the art. And he wasn't even tired at the end of the 5-5s. And I was like, holy crap, you're a super athlete. He goes, my brother's got better lungs than me. And I was like, so I get on the phone, I call up Sean. I go, hey, Sean, I'll take the job. So I got both of them fighting now. They're both champions at One Fighting Championship. They are both jiu-jitsu champions. Cade and Ty Ruotolo.
Yeah, they're amazing grapplers, and that's so interesting. We've both seen the situation where someone comes from grappling or jiu-jitsu, and then they try to walk into MMA and only use the grappling and jiu-jitsu, like make that work. And they end up kind of taking a pounding as they're trying to do that. Are the brothers embracing striking as well?
Yeah, because since they're little kids, their parents made them go in the garage and beat each other up. They would grapple. They would go to all the jiu-jitsu tournaments. They would grapple, go out of grappling tournaments, and then they'd throw on the boxing gloves and just beat the shit out of each other. And they're twins. They're mirror twins. So these kids have nothing but competition in their blood. And not only that, they're surfers. First thing I said when they walked in the room, they introduced themselves to even the janitors in my gym, and they got to know your name. They walked up and said, hi, my name's Cade. What's your name? And they introduced themselves to everybody. When they left, they go like, much love. And then they high five you. And then everyone's like, holy crap, those are good kids. How old are they? And I go, they're 21. And he goes, wow, they act like they're like 30. And then the second thing I said to him, I go, I want to meet your parents. And they go, why? I go, because I want to congratulate them on such a great job of how they raised you. You're so respectful. You're super humble. You're not braggadocious by any means. They're nice kids. They laugh, they smile, and they're super duper respectful. And it means the most for me to come out of retirement for two respectful kids and their friends, their posse they bring. They're all super cool guys. Everyone's respectful. They're all young. They're all in their early 20s. It's the newest generation, and these kids, they get it. Their jiu-jitsu is like unbelievable.
Well, you're lucky to have them to work with. It's like having this amazing magical clay, but they're lucky to have you because of your incredible experience. That's boy, I expect great things from them. And are you thinking of building a team again, or is it just going to be them?
It'll just be those two. I have a couple other pros that are in my practice, but my focus, because of the fact that they're both going to be fighting, objectively, I would like Ty and Cade to be on the same fight card at one fighting, because we have to go to either Thailand, Japan, or Qatar. So instead of going to Qatar, coming back and going to Thailand, it's kind of nice to go to Qatar once and then wait for the next one.
Oh yeah, I hear you. I just released a interview with Caesar Gracie, and he talked about how it was so hard for him to have a team of fighters, and you're constantly going out to all these different shows, and you got to be there for them. It's just travel. It's just a hard thing to do.
So that was what I was doing
Yeah.
with the fight team, not just train everybody, but cornering them too. That's a whole lot. Fighting is all about you. You're selfish. You have to be in order for you to win. Coaching, nothing's about you. It's all about everybody else. And then when guys, they're fighting, they're winning, you get much more from being a coach, I think, than you ever did as a fighter. That's what I feel.
And why is that?
Because you're training all these other guys to become a champion, and you're changing their lives. You didn't just change your life, but now what you did, you're changing their lives. So now you're sharing and passing on the torch and also the lineage of all the training that you've done. I think that's important.
In business, there's a term scaling, that you're taking something that is just good for one and you're able to replicate it and make it work for multiple people. And that's what you're doing as a teacher.
Both fighters are different. Cade and Ty are different fighters, but when they fight, their competitive nature, they're both dogs. Like Cade's yelling at Ty because he's flat-footed and his hands are down here, but his hands aren't up here, they're down here. And he's like, move your head. And he's like, shut up. And he's like, you're flat-footed. And he's like, mind your own business. And I'm like, okay, let's be positive, guys. Let's keep it positive because, well, I only want the best for my brother. And I go, Ty, are you cool with your brother yelling at you? He goes, yeah, I kind of like it. It fuels my fire. That's funny. But they're always there. They corner each other all the time. And that's the coolest thing because it's family. And right now we have a perfect team. Everyone gets along. Everyone has fun. We go. It's all respect. It's all business. And we are 5-0 for MMA. So Cade is 3-0 and Ty is 2-0. And then I also secretly helped them with submissions for CJI.
Yeah.
So Pat, he's like, hey, can you come in and just work privately with the Ruotolos on catch wrestling stuff that people don't know? So that's what we did. I was secretly going down there, training them for 2-hour sessions.
Oh, you did well.
Yeah, he won the whole thing. Ty hurt his knee in that second round.
Yeah.
Anyways, what's funny is there was 15 guys in the room. I took a picture, and they're all the Oregon State wrestlers and jiu-jitsu guys from San Clemente. And they went through those 15 guys 3 times, 3 revolutions of 15. They all started on their feet. And I don't think the boys got taken down one time. And I was like, you guys are like nuts. And I videotaped it. I was watching it just going, their balance is unbelievable. And their ability to switch and turn the switch, like when someone's attacking, they turn the attack into their attack. Like if you go really hard at me, they go twice as fast. And then all of a sudden they're like,
it's going to be really exciting to see how they develop and how their careers develop if they stick with it. Are you yourself still exploring new ideas, or are you at this point feel that you've been exposed to enough and now you're just transmitting?
Oh no, I'm researching all the time. I research all the time. I watch videos, I read. I like to read history. Let me see, I'll show you this book. Tell me if you've ever seen this book.
No, I've not seen it. The Evolution of Modern Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, and you've got to look up his.
Yeah.
You know how many volumes? There's a lot of volumes, and it's all
I can see it's
historical.
volume 2. There must be other volumes.
39 to 49. It just talks about the history of jiu-jitsu way before. Do you know who Robert Drysdale is?
Sure.
So Professor Robert Drysdale told me to look this guy up so you could get more history out in the background of jiu-jitsu. And it's interesting because the stories are a little bit different than some of the stuff we've been told. But a lot of people, if you hear a story from one person, so you're going to hear one story. And this is a mixture of tons of different stories.
Absolutely. And different people who are even a part of the same thing are experiencing things differently, even in the moment.
This one doesn't have pictures. This one's just talking about where it came from and how it blended from Japan and kind of traveled to all different parts, came to America.
Right.
It's like, what's his name with the guy down in San Diego? He was a competitor. He calls it American Jiu-Jitsu, not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
So American Jiu-Jitsu, I think people misunderstand Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of people have only heard of Jiu-Jitsu through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then they say, oh, you do Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. And they don't really understand that there were traditional styles of Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, very formal things. There is judo, which came from jiu-jitsu. There's the jiu-jitsu I was learning when I started in 1968 as a little kid, which was a half Japanese man. His father was Japanese, his mother was American, kind of what the armed services guys brought back. It was, in a way, closest to what the Gracies call self-defense. They're sort of
Yeah.
stand-up grips. Someone gives you this attack, you respond in this way. It was practiced as a sport like judo. There's just a lot of different flavors of what jiu-jitsu has become. And a lot of it was very Americanized already before Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Keenan Cornelius.
Yeah, Keenan Cornelius. Actually, Keenan is the son of Tom Callos, who you might know.
I know Tom Callis.
Yeah, Tom is an old friend in the martial arts, and Keenan is his son. And I think it was Tom Callos who got BJ Penn actually first training with Caesar. And Keenan, of course, is amazing.
Yeah. Keenan's very intellectual, very cranial. Him and Robert Drysdale had one of the most amazing podcasts. And they were just talking, and it was really interesting. Have you seen Robert Drysdale's book?
No, I've not. I'll check it out. We'll link to it.
Yeah, it talks about the history of jiu-jitsu. He hit me up. He was talking about catch wrestling, and that I said the Count Koma was originally not only a judoka, he was jiu-jitsu, judoka, a newaza specialist, a throwing specialist, and a catch wrestler. He was a carnival wrestler. That's how he made a living. He had over 1,000 matches. And this guy goes, no, he wasn't. He's just a judo guy. And I go, well, then how do you explain this picture? He's got wrestling shorts on. He's got a half Nelson on a guy. I go, that's catch wrestling. Because any of the wrestling before the 30s or 40s was catch wrestling. Everyone learned punishment holds. That's how you pin someone. You put a sub on them when they stall, and then that makes them squirm, and then you try to pin them. So that was interesting.
I think for people who want to get good in a martial art, understanding the evolution, understanding the history is helpful. And certainly looking back, because like you say, there are some things that are new takes on things, but generally people have been fighting with the same body for thousands of years. And if you can look back and see even things just from the 1800s, 1900s, you can see some interesting things that maybe you can apply more effectively today. But you'll find a lot of real interesting stuff in books.
That's right. And a lot of people don't read. They just go on the internet. And it was funny because I had this discussion with Eddie Bravo. Eddie came and he did a seminar at my school during my camp. And I brought a bag of my books and I put them all out. And I was like, hey, and I go, have you seen this book? Have you looked at this? This is all about this. And he looked at me, he smiled, and he goes, all my information comes off the internet. He goes, I don't read. And I was like, what? He goes, I look at my phone.
There's a lot of information on the internet.
There's a lot of misinformation.
There's a lot of wrong information. There's a lot of people doing things that just look good. I have a buddy, David Mitchell, who is a fighter, and he says he uses it for inspiration. You get ideas. But the problem is you're only then getting ideas that people are floating around today, and you're missing out on stuff from 50, 100 years ago. Because guess what? There was no one videotaping then. That's not on the internet.
That's right. That's right. Someone was asking where all the leg locks came from. And I asked Toro Sayama, I said, can you tell me where the leg locks came from? And he goes, sure, in Japan. I go, Achilles lock. He goes, Sambo. I go, knee bar. He goes, Sambo. I go, toe hold. He goes, Carl Gotch, catch wrestling. I go, hip lock. He goes, catch wrestling. How about the heel hook? He goes, oh, the heel hook. That came from Brazil. And I go, what? And he goes, Ivan Gomez brought the heel hook to Japan and taught all the pro wrestlers how to do a heel hook.
Listen, I mentioned John Will. He was at the Acropolis Museum in Athens, and there's a stone relief they've got on the wall of a centaur.
Centaur heel hooking a Roman soldier.
In the middle of a battle on someone.
I just told that story today because someone said, I have a heel hook. I made up this move. I go, no, you didn't. You stumbled across it. There's a picture on a wall of a centaur heel hooking like a Roman soldier.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. The human body has been around for a long time, and people have been fighting for a long time. You know that when people say, like, I've forgotten more than you've ever known, the human race has probably forgotten more fighting techniques than it's ever known, because you probably had these systems that people were doing and warriors were doing, and then maybe their tribe got wiped out or whatever, and there was no preserving of it. So we probably are just reinventing things.
Or stumbling across or redoing them and calling them the J lock or the goth lock with the pillow V arm lock from judo. Even G. LaBelle showed it in 1943 in a book. It's called the pillow V arm lock.
Yep. Well, listen,
Dave, is that your book on the shelf there?
that is my book over my shoulder there. It's a book I wrote many years ago through Black Belt Publications on training for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, submission grappling.
Does it have the point system in it?
Yes, that's right. It was at the beginning of kind of modern jiu-jitsu tournaments, and I was explaining the point system and all that stuff.
Oh, that's great.
I haven't looked at it recently. I'm sure the rules have moved on a lot and stuff like that, but I think there was some good pointers in there about just sort of a mindset for people who are trying to get into competition. Do you have any advice for people who are just getting into martial arts now? Should they compete? Do you have anything that you wish you had done differently?
Well, I think pressure testing is extremely important, but controlled. I look at it from a technical standpoint. When I was fighting and training fighters, I looked at it from an athletic standpoint. So the better the athlete, the more success they're going to have versus someone who didn't run and lift weights and all they do is jiu-jitsu. And then you got a guy that is doing as much running, lifting, and swimming as he is jiu-jitsu. It evens the odds a lot. So I said, athletically, I think if you can get your body to a point where you're a good athlete, make yourself more athletic, whether it's getting up and walking or running every day, swimming, hitting the heavy bag, and then training the technical aspect, and then also just having super hard rolls, and then just technical light rolls. There's nothing worse than when somebody goes, let's just go light, and then they go really hard.
I hate that.
I just expect everyone's going to go hard. That's it.
So just to close us out, are there any principles that you draw from martial arts that you think are useful in life or that might be useful in business off the mat?
Yeah, I think if you could read this book, it gives you some really good pointers. Boom.
Power. Is that your book?
No, I'm not that gifted to write something that is profound.
Who's it written by?
Robert Greene.
Power by Robert Greene.
Pose as a friend, work as a spy. These are just articles. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. This book is profound. I mean, this really is a valuable book. If you have not read this book, I highly suggest, especially if you're a teacher or a coach, if you're a professor, college professor, whatever you do, if you're out dealing with the public, this gives you such a great insight. The other thing you're asking me spiritually. So spiritually, I had a lot of students that wanted to get married, and nothing makes me happier to see two people that want to share their lives together. So that's why I went and got my minister's license so I could marry my friends. So I started marrying friends after their seminars, which is kind of funny. The last one we did was in Montana. We were up in the mountains of Montana, and my friend said, would you marry my fiance and I? And we were up on the water. It was beautiful. There were 6 of us. Man, it was so amazing. And then I'm going to Barbados. My friend decided he wants to marry his girlfriend, so we're going to go to Barbados in 2 weeks. Another thing I do, I have a lot of fighters that have never been baptized, and they ask, they have to, I don't ever say, you need to be baptized. They ask because maybe some guys are having night terrors. That happens a lot. A lot of people might have night terrors, nightmares, live in a haunted house or something like that. And I said, well, I think one way to ward a lot of that stuff off is to get baptized. And they were like, oh, really? So I had a guy today ask me if I could baptize. So I baptized probably about 12 people, I think, so far.
Well, that is very cool. I actually got a minister's thing. I mean, it's very easy to do because I had some friends. Also, my friend I mentioned, Dave Mitchell, and his wife, Lauren Sachs, both black belts. That's the first wedding I ever did, and it was beautiful. It was up here in Northern California in the Redwoods. It was super fun. I mean, what a nice thing to be invited into someone's life like that to try to give them a little bit of wisdom. I tell people I like being married so much. I've done it twice, but the second time
behind you there.
The second time is a keeper for sure. So I agree. It's nice. And it's particularly nice if people met in the martial arts. Like you say, it's a very challenging thing. Like, I don't want people dating, on the mat. It can lead to all kinds of problems. But every once in a while, 2 students, people are legitimately training and they meet and they become friends and they got that martial arts to bond them. And that's wonderful when that happens.
Well, that's another easy way for someone to destroy your business is when guys are just dating all the girls at your school.
Right.
It's when they break up that someone quits. One or the other quits. So
And then you're going to lose a student for sure because they're not going to want to be on the mat at the same time.
yeah, and in order for you to keep your school running, you want to retain as many students as possible. And I enforce that rule. I've had a couple bad ones, but we have 3 good ones that are happening right now, and they're all going to be getting married, I think. I believe.
Well, very nice.
So that makes me happy. The baptism thing also, because times are unsure right now, and I think it's important that you stand strong with your faith and belief, whatever it is, and not to be unsure, just be sure of at least who you are and stand your ground. And then the other is when people pass. I've had some people pass, and I've done last rites for people to set them off. And I think that's also another good thing that you could do as a minister is you're allowed to do last rites. I don't particularly care about leading a funeral, but speaking at a funeral is another big thing too. And then also helping the incarcerated a little bit by talking to them. That's another big one, I think.
Oh, that's a very good deed. If you're doing that, that's a very good deed.
Feeding the homeless, obviously. Help those in need all the time.
Well, like I say, you're the complete martial artist. You were really at the very beginning, one of the first people I ever saw, and I'm talking pre-UFC, who combined all kinds of fighting styles. I'm so glad that you're still able to do it throughout your challenges, and all the ways in which you're giving back to people that you're describing here is wonderful. You are a warrior in the good sense. Like you say, the sheepdog. I just have so much respect for you, Erik. And
I think healing also is a big part of it too. So
absolutely.
that's why I went through massage. I was a massage therapist for a chiropractor for 15 years.
You still do massage?
I do on certain people. If someone gets hurt, I fix it. I put bones in. Your shoulder pops out, I'll put your shoulder in. If your nose breaks, I'll put your nose back. If your finger is dislocated, I'll put your finger back. I've had a guy with a dislocated knee. I put his knee back in, ankles back in. I think that's extremely important. That's the highest level of martial arts is the healing arts. You can heal people spiritually and physically.
If you can break it, you should be able to put it back together. I agree with that. I think that's called in Japanese jiu-jitsu, it's seifuku jiu-jitsu. It's the restorative arts. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That was always important with my first jiu-jitsu instructor. We also worked massage, exactly the same kind of thing. And also that helps you just have a better understanding of the body. Weirdly, understanding healing arts can also help in your fighting as you understand which way the body does want to work and which way it doesn't want to go.
Well, I used to watch you when I used to come in, and you were always stretching before your training.
Oh, yeah.
You're always sitting lotus, stretching the whole time. I was like, wow, you're like the only guy that comes in and stretches. You're not like the typical stuntman. They do the stuntman stretch. You touch your toes twice and they touch the sky and they're ready to go. Called the stuntman stretch. I also use 2 of your moves still to this day. The one where they're passing your guard, you grab here and then you take the arm all the way
Take it
over
across your
head.
head and then hip toss them over.
Go to your knees. Yeah, I use that one all the time. And another one is I actually created a series off of your give them the wrist, take the anchor, and then ankle pick. You give them the wrist, you grab your wrist, you grab their wrist, you pull it to the floor, and then ankle pick.
I do that to everybody. I'm so glad. I'm sure you've improved on it. We'll have to get on the mat and you'll have to show me what you're doing.
I call it the Dave Meyer.
Oh, I'm very honored.
Yeah, so one is you go like this, you pull her down and you hold it down, and then you ankle pick with the arm.
Yeah.
The second was you pull it down and you let them yank it out, and you still hit the ankle pick, the low single.
Yeah, it's a way to enter for the low single. Exactly.
The third one is you anchor them down and you go for the near ankle and they step their foot back and you go far ankle pick.
Yeah.
And then the third one or fourth one is you anchor them down and you go for the leg, their front leg, and they step their leg back and then you just pull their arm really hard and you're on their back.
Oh, I love it. You work all these different permutations. You're bringing your creative mind. I am honored to have my name associated with that. That's very nice. I got my low single from John Will, who I mentioned, so credit where credit is due, but I really appreciate it.
You learned the anchor from John Will?
No, I got just the shoot in for the low single, the feeding the hand, taking it, dragging the person low so they pull back. That was me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I like that. I still teach that to this day. Yeah, it's a sneaky way. Like if you're not good at takedowns, it's a sneaky way to get to their legs.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've done that on people that are good. I've gotten that on black belts for sure.
I saw you do that at that tournament. Remember the tournament at Joe Morier's? Let's see. It was a challenge match. Who did you go against?
Fabio Santos?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I had a big fight there with Fabio Santos. Well, listen, I feel like I should let you go. Your wife's going to be mad at me.
No, it's great. Thank you. That was great. Great talk.
And I'm so glad we worked out the bugs. And
Super congratulations on your coral belt. It's a huge achievement.
thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad that you are back to coaching and stuff. And I hope that all your health stuff is behind you. You seem really strong, really in good shape to me. And I just look forward to seeing you next time I come down to LA.
Thank you. Thank you, Master Dave.
Grasshopper. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my discussion with Erik. Erik is a great guy, a very interesting person, as you saw. He trains out of his academy in Los Angeles. We have got links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this, please do let me know. Like or share. Definitely tell me what you thought. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. That would be really interesting for me to hear, and I do respond to all the comments. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, leaving a review there is very, very helpful. So thanks if you can do that. I will be back next week with more lessons from the lab. And until then, keep developing your strength, your wisdom, and go out and do good in the world.